Hey, caught me fixing my hair.
Yeah, all of it.
I got the Homer Simpson hair.
Hey guys, welcome back to another week of our craziness.
And we're both here this time.
We are, yes, so you don't have to deal with a special guest.
You didn't even see the special guest.
I know your antics. So I'm sorry you all had to put up with the ridiculous special guest, but I'm back on this side of the equator. So
The other special guest.
so anyway, we've got some good movies lined up.
Some classics.
And some not. So while on the plane on the way to Peru, I watched
Snakes on a Plane.
No, I did not watch Snakes on a Plane because that has nothing to do with fathers. I watched Ordinary Angels from 2024, so it's a movie from this year. It was really, really good. It was about this dad and his daughter who was terminally ill. She needed a liver transplant in order to live. So she was on the liver transplant list, and she was getting very, very sick in the meantime, waiting for a viable liver. And this woman who was kind of a hot mess in her own life, an alcoholic and just uncertain of her future, really.
No direction.
Yeah, no good direction anyway. And she was struggling, to say the least, in her life. Working these odds and ends jobs just to kind of get by. She worked as a bartender, and for an alcoholic, that's a bad job to have. So she would many nights just drink herself to a stupor. And she ran into this dad and heard a story about the daughter and kind of met them, and then decided to kind of make it her life mission to help save this girl. So she's a complete stranger. She had no idea anything about this family, really, or anything, just from what she learned from this happenstance encounter. And she just dropped everything and went gung-ho to raise money for this little girl to pay off their hospital debt, because the father was sinking in hospital debt and was going to have to possibly sell his house, who was built by a family member of his. So he was really hitting rock bottom with the financial aspect of his daughter's illness. So she started fundraising, and she did all of this fundraising for this family, gave them the money, needing nothing in return, wanting nothing in return. She just wanted to make something of herself and used her abilities of persuasion to fundraise and get all the money. And she actually went in and petitioned to the hospital leaders for them to drop all the cost for this little girl. Her mother had died. The little girl's mother had died years before from a terminal illness. And so the father was still paying off debt from the mother's illness and her death. And so there was just like $400,000 worth of debt.
What was her motivation for making that her purpose, to help out the girl?
She just wanted to make something of her life because she knew her life was a hot mess and not really worth anything. So she wanted to make it worth everything.
Just a switch, huh? She just switch turned on. And
at the end of it, you see her kind of turn herself around. She realizes that alcohol was the part of her problem. Her son wanted nothing to do with, she had a son. Her son wanted nothing to do with her because she was just a drunken fool all the time. And so she convinced him that she was ready to clean up her life and wanted to be a part of his life. So at the end, she kind of was able to have some reconciliation with her son, which was nice. It was nice to see. So it was just a really, really good movie. I would probably give it a 9 out of 10. I thought it was really good.
Okay. High praise.
Yeah. So good movie. Had good values, had a great father who's just doing the best he could to try to help his daughter, and worked hard and just kept it together. And so it was a good father story.
Were there any big names in this one, or some up and coming
Heather
folks?
or Hilary Swank was the main character. She was the alcoholic. Other than that, no, none that I
usually know Hilary Swank from some tough girl movies.
Yeah. So she was kind of a tough girl in this one too. But good movie. All right. The next one was the classic he was talking about, Father of the Bride from 1991.
Wow, 91. That's
So this is
older than I
Steve
thought.
Martin movie, of course,
Steve Martin's
and Diane
funny.
Keaton. So this is about a father who had a daughter and a son, and she went away to Europe, right? On a trip, school trip or friend trip or college.
right,
I
yeah.
forget why she went away, but she did, and then she comes back and surprises them with an engagement. She says that she's engaged to this American guy, and she thought that would make it all better because he's American. He's not European. But the dad kind of freaked out.
He was usually not very enthusiastic about anything.
I wouldn't say that. He loved his daughter though, and loved being the man in her life. And I think when he realized that there was going to be another man in her life, he kind of lost it a little bit in a funny way. I mean, you know, Steve Martin's a comedian. And so, any movie that he's in, you know, you're going to get a laugh.
He's a funny guy.
So you kind of see through this movie how he's processing the news of his daughter, and he realizes if he fights it, he's going to lose her completely. So he doesn't want to really fight it, but he's fighting it.
And
through the movie.
And the way the movie is done for some of it is him narrating it in his head.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so there's a lot of that, and it's pretty funny. It's a pretty funny movie.
Yeah.
So in the end, he realizes that the man is good for his daughter, and that they love each other, and that he's going to be a good addition to the family. So in the end, he kind of comes around, and
I can see that being a tough thing for a dad.
Just wait.
I know. Fathers and sons and fathers and daughters have, you know, close but different connections.
So he's gonna have to deal with that with two. Can you imagine Alora? Oh, that's gonna be fun. Anyway, so what would you rate this movie?
I think the comedy is pretty good in this movie.
Yeah.
I feel like you know, some more modern comedies aren't as funny.
Yeah.
Usually it
not
goes
quality funny.
It goes for more of the say the most shocking thing to get you the laugh instead of good writing.
Right.
So I'd say it's a pretty timeless movie. It's always enjoyable. I probably give it an 8.5.
Yeah, same. I was gonna say 8 to an 8.5 is where I would rate that one. We did also watch the second one.
Yeah, it's good for everybody to watch, right?
Yeah, it's clean, family fun.
Yeah.
It's rated PG, so and I don't remember any parts in it where I was like, oh, gotta switch it. It was good. We watched Father of the Bride 2 as well from 1995, so it was written 4 years later. And it's basically the daughter comes home and tells them that she's pregnant. In turn of events, Steve Martin's wife is also pregnant.
Which is really crazy because her daughters are in their early 20s.
Yeah.
And which puts them in their late 50s or 60s.
60s, yeah. So, I mean, it's...
Can you imagine raising a kid starting at 60 years old?
Can you imagine being pregnant at the same time as your daughter? That's just...
How old was Abraham when they finally had their kid?
You know, that's a different time. This is now, and I'm sorry, but I do not want to be pregnant at the same time as my daughter.
Yeah, that's kind of weird.
And so they went through their pregnancies together. They went through birth classes together. They did all of this together. Y'all, that would be weird to me. That would be weird to me. No.
The daughter and the mother
what are they going to be?
Were happy
sister,
about it.
aunt and uncle, nephew, niece?
Weren't they really happy about it? Were the daughter and mother?
They were. I don't know. I think it's weird. I would not have been happy about it. No, of course not. He's like ready to retire and having a baby all over again. Like that would be crazy. That would be crazy. And I hope to not go through that.
I think we're good.
I think I'm done. I'm done with the childbearing years. It would need to be a miracle. And, we aren't God. So if he made it happen.
He made it happen for a reason.
And we deal with it.
Yep.
I'm not sure happily in the beginning.
It'll make for a good story, right?
It would make for something. That's for sure. So this one was funny also, of course. It still has Steve Martin, so it still has the slapstick comedy kind of stuff.
And I'd say it's on par for a sequel. No.
I hope not. No, that's too long.
Oh, no, I meant on par as far as, the first one was good.
Oh.
The second one was about as good. Usually what sequels,
But was it? I don't know.
Not so sure.
I guess so.
So half a star lower?
Yeah. Probably 7.5 to an 8.
Okay.
For me.
I'll put it at a 7.
Well, then that's a 1.5 lower than what you said before. Liar?
Okay. So my words and my star ratings are a little uncalibrated.
It was good. Don't get me wrong. It was a good movie. It was just weird that the mother and daughter were pregnant at the same exact time, due at the same exact time, had their babies on the same day.
Did something like that happen in What to Expect When You're Expecting?
Well, yeah, but they were all different stories.
Oh, they were all different stories. I thought there was a family.
Well, there was. So the one and the stepmom that was pregnant with twins. But I mean, she was the same age as the girl.
She was, that was weird.
That was just the dad marrying a toddler.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, so that was Father of the Bride, part 1 and 2, 1991 and 1996. Or 5. Then we watched one called Blue Miracle from 2021.
You found this one.
I did. And it sounded really interesting.
I was in the middle of doing something, and then I kept hearing stuff about fishing, and I finally had a chance to sit down and continue watching it.
So this was basically about this guy and his wife.
Based off a true story.
Based off a true story. They lived in Mexico, and they ran an orphanage of boys. And they were trying to raise funds to keep this orphanage running because it was basically going broke.
Yeah.
So they heard of this fishing competition where whoever was the first one to catch the largest marlin
in 3 days. They had 3 days of worth of fishing to be able to do this.
Yeah, got this astronomical amount of money. It was like
$250,000 was the prize money
just for catching a marlin. So yeah. I mean, they must be worth something in Mexico.
Now, to give you an idea, that I think the fish that they caught was 368 pounds. I mean, that's how big a marlin is. And I think the fish that was before that was around 340, 350 pounds.
Yeah.
And so they had I don't think they'd ever had a Mexican team before. And so this was a really historic event, and that they were the first ones, and they won.
Yeah.
None of them were fishermen. And they tagged along with this guy, and who was played by Dennis Quaid. And he claimed that he had won 2 of these competitions. And this is a really, really big competition, except
he cheated.
Yeah, but I don't know if no one knew that he cheated, right?
But he told the guy, and he wanted to cheat with the guy so that the guy could win.
And the way he wanted to cheat was he got a pretty sizable marlin from this other guy, and he bought it from him. And so they were going to take the fish out with them to make it look like they were going to pretend that they caught it. But the guy was thinking about it. Well, we could really help the orphanage, but is this really the right thing to
Yeah,
do?
he wanted to show a good example to his boys
Yeah.
that and cheating was not it. And he had kind of a troubled teen that he was kind of counseling and working with. And I think he felt the guilt of that. Like, what am I really showing this kid that I'm trying to teach? And I'm trying to kind of curve him to good behavior, but how am I going to cheat to this magnitude
Yeah. The
and be a good example to this kid?
ends never justify the means.
Yeah.
Uh
So he ended up not doing it. He ended up throwing the fish
he
into
cut
the
it
water.
loose, and then Dennis Quaid's like, what did you
Yeah,
just do? So I thought it was a really cool story. I like deep sea fishing a lot. It's cool whenever we get the chance to go, and um, uh, they did not have a lot of faith going in on that third day because this guy had this old rickety boat that did not start consistently, and they just weren't having any great luck. And so that's how they approached that last day. And then things turned around for them when he got right in the head and decided to cut the fish loose, and
yeah.
miracle happened.
And
They
they
took
caught
home
the
a
winning
big
fish.
fish.
So they ended up getting the money and were able to continue with the orphanage. So it was a good story.
Pretty amazing story. It's
Yeah.
cool that they decided to make a movie out of this and kind of make this known to everybody, because I'd never heard of anything about that.
And it was a different kind of father movie. So he was technically not a father
It's
to
father
these
figure.
boys, but
Yeah.
he was absolutely a father figure to
Yeah.
them and did his very best to nurture them, to care for them, to provide for them, to do everything that a father would do for
And
them.
he
And
even
he loved them like he was their father.
on that third day, he even spoke to them, saying that um, you work hard, you might get what you're after. Sometimes you just don't, and that's just the way that it is.
It's
It was
life.
a
Yeah.
life, exactly. That's life, and that is a really important lesson to learn.
Yeah.
And it was really discouraging to those kids, but it's the truth. That and for some kids, it just takes time for that to sink in.
Well, and I think it's important for them to learn that they're not always going to win in everything that
Yeah,
they do. They're not always going to be the winner. There's going to be times where things aren't going to work out, and they have to learn how to cope with those things and kind of turn the page and
yep,
understand, hey, there's a different direction that my life needs to go. There's different things that I'm meant to do. This was not it.
yep.
And so sometimes that's a challenge, but it's a necessary thing for kids to understand because life isn't always going to be exactly how you're hoping. Sometimes things are going to turn.
So it was good on him for teaching those kids
Good
that really
values.
important
Yeah.
lesson. And so that reminds me of what I had mentioned in last week's movie, A Million Miles Away. Uh, Again, that was about the migrant farm worker who wanted to become an astronaut, and his family sacrificed a lot in order for him to pursue that. And they lost a house, and big sacrifice. And whenever the son would come back to just spend some time with his family, uh, and he would feel discouraged, the dad would remind him, "You remember how much we had to sacrifice?" And then the son would say, "Dad, you always bring that up. It gets kind of heavy." And then the dad said, "We'll get stronger." I mean, just good fatherly leadership.
Yeah, so I didn't watch that movie with him. So
It's
that's on my
really,
list of
really
movies to watch. So
super good.
I might have to throw that one in sometime this week,
Super
depending on
good.
how this week goes. This week's kind of stacking up to be a little busy, so I'm not sure what we're going to get in. And I'm still a little dragon from the trip. Yeah, it kind of exhausted all of us. And I talked to a few from our trip today, and we're all still kind of like, man, I don't know what it was, but this trip was hard. I mean, it was It was hard. It was hard in a lot of ways, but it was good too. So you kind of have that mixed emotion with it there, that it was just hard on our bodies and very draining and very exhausting,
You
but
guys,
it was very rewarding also. So
you guys battled some wet weather and sickness.
we
Yeah.
battled a lot. We battled a lot.
Long days, long nights.
Yeah. So the devil was definitely trying to kick us down on this trip, but
It's always tough when you're not at home.
yeah,
Just
we
being outside of your comfort zone.
did what we could. Thankfully, the whole crew didn't go down at once. We went down like 2 or 3 at a time. So we were still able to run all the programs that we had planned. We were still able to accomplish everything that we set out to accomplish. It was just kind of a struggle in some of the areas, but okay. So our last movie is
we would rate that one. I would rate that one
right.
maybe an 8.5.
All right. So there's that one. I got to watch that still, so I can't add to the rating on that one.
Oh, Blue Miracle. Oh, okay. Yeah.
That was Blue Miracle
Yeah.
from 2021. Okay. And then our last one is We Bought a Zoo from 2011. There's Brownie. There's 2 hot dogs left in there.
They're mixed in with some veggies in a box.
Sorry, our oldest got home from work. So We Bought a Zoo from 2011. This has Matt Damon in
Right.
it as the lead character. He is a widower. Bless
Excuse
you.
me.
He's
Thanks.
dealing with allergies over here.
Yeah.
So Matt Damon is a widower who had 3 kids. Two
Two kids.
Only 2.
An
Okay.
older teenage son and
a daughter,
Yeah.
younger daughter. So he was kind of an investor and
adventure addict.
a venture addict and an investor.
Yes.
And he was introduced to this property that he saw the house and fell in love with it instantly. Then he learned
It was a zoo.
it was a working zoo. So he ended up purchasing this house and the zoo. But he had a lot of work he had to do. So along with the zoo came the zoo crew. So
Yeah.
he had to learn how to have a relationship with all of these people who have kind of been curators of the zoo for all this time and were kind of stuck in their ways and kind of knew how everything should be run in the zoo. So he had to kind of learn the ropes and learn how to deal with them.
They're pretty. They what do you call it? They became acclimated with one another pretty well.
Yeah, but he had to make some changes. He had to make some changes mentally. He knew that there were some changes that needed to be made with the zoo. So he had to convince the staff that, some things needed to change.
And there was a time where he ran out of funds, and then this other miracle, his wife knew that the money would go quickly, and so
Because he knew her or she knew him.
and so there was this little, well, not really little, almost $100,000 pot of money that they were able to use to fund the restoration of the zoo, because they were trying to stand it up to become a public
Yeah.
a zoo,
Yeah.
to reopen it.
Yep. And so by the end of the movie, we're not going to give all of the details because it's a really good watch. It's definitely worth watching.
It's another one
family
that's
friendly,
based
but
on a true
PG.
story.
So pretty much every movie we watched this week is family friendly. They were all rated PG and all very clean. So it was a nice week.
That zoo is still open apparently.
Yeah. So at the end of the movie, it did say this was based off of a true story as well.
Yeah.
And the zoo is still functioning, owned by the man and one of the kids. I think the other kid is not helping with it, but I think it mentioned him and one of the kids was living there still and running the zoo, and it was running well.
Yeah.
So it was a really, really good movie. I would probably, I could feel the emotion. I could feel the intensity. It was good. I would probably give it an 8.5 to a 9.
I'd probably give it 8.5. I think also there's a good thing happening with the family. There's a little bit of turmoil with the family because the son was having trouble adjusting to this and trying to figure out
I think he thought that
direction.
the dad was not connecting with him. It was not understanding him, but it was just that the two of them were not properly communicating. And when they figured that out about each other,
that was part of the story, and that was a
Mhm.
good part of the story.
So they worked it out, and they ended up with a good relationship at the end. Bless you. You were still able to
failed.
sneeze.
Ugh.
All right, so I rated. What do you rate it?
I think I said 8.5.
Oh, did you? Oh,
Yeah, I think I did.
All right, so that was We Bought a Zoo from 2011. Really good Matt Damon movie.
Yeah, and Scarlett Johansson,
Yes.
the Blue Widow.
Yeah. So good lineup of movies this week. All family friendly. All really good. I mean, we rated them all pretty high. So
Yeah.
that gives you guys something to watch this week and something to kind of check out. Some good quality movies
From 1991 to 2024.
Yeah. So check them out, y'all. All right. I'm not sure what we're bringing to you on Tuesday's review, but check it out on Tuesday and see. Oh,
See you then. I don't know what that is on the screen.
It's a mouse. Kill it. All right, so you got a little shilling of the oldest. So, all right, guys. Well, thanks for tuning in. And if you haven't subscribed or hit like for our channel, make sure you do so.
Smash it.
Smash it. Comment, and we'll comment back.
Hit the little dinger.
We appreciate you. So check us out on Tuesday, and then Friday, and then next Sunday. Oh, my word. Oh, he's showing you how, in case you're not sure. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.
See ya. End stream.
Stop doing that.
Do we have potatoes?
Did you look in the pantry?
No, I didn't.